Alright. Black Bonnet, poorly lit street. The prostitutes only go down to the street for exercise. The victim was holding her bonnet in the hand at the time of the murder. The viscous was actively on. The victim wasn't afraid. The victim collected her bonnet from the ground. The victim wasn't afraid. She wasn't cautious. She didn't have a bonnet. Nicholas had her bonnet in her hand and was ready to exercise. Okay. Is that everything? Oh my god, this puzzle.
Yes, it's quite possible the events occurred like this.
Okay. Step 1 over. Step 2.
My dear Watson, now that we have found all of our clues, nothing remains but to subject them to our most likely hypotheses in order to
Watson, could I just take a step back from you? Heck. Okay, the murderer must have been sitting on the victim, with left knife in the right hand. Okay, the murderer was standing in front of the victim to strangle her. There's also the bruise caused in the left hand. The killer's right hand prevented the victim from screaming. Which leads me to the conclusion that the killer strangled the victim with his right hand. The killer strangled the victim with both hands. The killer strangled the victim with the left hand. And this all ties together to the killer is left-handed! No. The killer's right hand prevented the victim from screaming. This bruise was caused by hard pressure with a finger. No, that's right. The victim by gripping tightly. Killer had 2 knives. Killer's left-handed. Handed or left-handed? Killer is left-handed. Victim strangled the victim with his left hand. Both hands? No retaliations. Killer's left hand prevented the victim from screaming. Killer strangled the victim with his right hand? Wait. Hang on. Oh, son of a bitch!
Most probably dead before being laid down. Once the heart stopped, gravity drained the body slowly, not in a heavy strain.
That was a little bit more overbearing than it should have been.
Thank you, Holmes. I understand why you told me not to change clothes. Do you realize that our behavior didn't alarm anyone?
The victim's ordeal was even more discreet. By acting in silence, we have confirmed something. The crime definitely took place here. The victim and her murderer were able to come here without making any noise, and afterwards the murder took place without the slightest cry being uttered. Come, Watson, let's go home. We have spent far too long in this sinister alley.
Okay. That was a little bit too convoluted for my liking.
And
but
so,
still, it's better than it was.
The day and night which we passed in Whitechapel were enlightening, weren't they?
Yay!
An adventure that I most certainly will never relate. To be in the skin of that poor woman. I prefer not to speak of it further.
The Yowie Riders are having way too much fun with it.
Have we really learned anything about the murderer? Obviously a man, given the necessary strength.
We have little to go on, at least no more than the police. But in my opinion, Inspector Aberline has a trick or two up his sleeve. No, I want to talk about the facts and what we can draw from them. We know where the crime was committed.
Why don't we talk to him?
And what conditions.
Go talk to him.
I would like to ask you about the possible motives for the crime. According to you, Watson, what could have pushed the murderer to act in such a way?
Black magic! Black magic! Definitely going with the black magic. Yes. Horrible mutations? Black magic. Credible motive, even if it's a field that Sherlock doesn't know about? Yeah. Is there a help? Okay, what could have been the best possible motives for the crime? Love! Credible motive, even if it's a field that Sherlock doesn't know. Okay, theft, resentment can lead to inappropriate acts, revenge. The victim was an occasional prostitute without family ties. Madness. The victim has suffered horrible mutilations.
Homicidal insanity, Holmes.
It is indubitable that the man who did this to Polly Nichols is...
So yes?
Black magic?
I'm not terribly interested in the occult or black magic. Let's give the benefit of the doubt to this motive.
Why does that keep doing that? Alright, so no.
Theft, perhaps.
I have a hard time believing that someone would attack poor Polly so fiercely just to rob her of a few coins.
Okay.
A personal drama.
Love can certainly lead to many a drama, but we have to consider the fact that the victim didn't know her attacker.
Revenge, Holmes?
Revenge could be a possible motive, but with one small reservation. We have reason to believe that the victim considered her murderer to be a typical client.
Alright, so madness is the only option. Right? What could have been the possible motives for the crime? Love, no. Theft, no. Well, black magic, yeah. Madness, yeah. Revenge, Holmes doesn't think so. I think all of them are possible, but...
Elementary.
Yeah, I
Very
knew
well,
it.
Watson. I think that we've exhausted the topic. Take a rest and we'll speak again later.
Black magic, it's black magic. I knew it. Cthulhu.
It would seem that the investigation is
Cthulhu.
advancing, Holmes. Yesterday's Star said that a suspect is in the hands of the police. A man with a rather sinister reputation.
Aya,
I was
Cthulhu
about to join
Fatagan.
you in your optimistic outlook until you informed me that the good news came from the press, Watson.
Surely they wouldn't invent the fact that the police are holding a suspect, or the acts that are attributed to him.
Yeah,
You
they
have an
would.
exact answer to these two questions in less than 50 seconds, Watson.
Pardon?
Enter, Inspector.
Oh, he's good.
Good day.
Dear Watson, allow me to introduce Inspector Aberline.
I thought that was going to be Lestrade. I was confused.
Inspector?
To what do we owe the honour of your presence, Inspector?
I heard that
What's
the
up?
two of you made your way to Whitechapel a few days ago. Your arrival, you are aware, coincides with a very serious affair which our police service is going to great lengths to solve and which is creating strong tensions in the area.
We're
Pardon
suspects?
me, but haven't you arrested someone? A certain Leather Apron?
Absolutely not. The man who hides behind this name is indeed being actively searched for by the force. Besides, nothing at the moment suggests that he is the Bucks Row murderer.
You've been enlightened, Watson. Now it is our turn to answer Inspector Aberline's questions.
Indeed. I will be brief and precise. Do you intend to investigate this case, or have you already started?
It is to be of service to a friend that I went to Whitechapel. We did, out of curiosity, familiarise ourselves with the preliminary
Liar!
reports, and we made our way to the scene of the crime. Our conclusions are slim, as are the clues. Having not been officially appointed by a client, I believe that my intervention in this business will end there.
So hire
Very
me.
well. To be frank, you take the weight off my shoulders by distancing yourself from the case. Our image isn't very good, to say nothing of what the press puts us through. Thus, if overnight they found out that you were on the case, people would turn against us.
And they would pester me, overwhelm me, and finally make me out to be responsible for the inevitable failure such a scenario entails. Neither you nor I wish for this to happen. I know that your time is precious, Inspector. I will send you a note regarding my conclusions shortly.
With pleasure. Gentlemen,
So stay the hell away, but we
Do you
appreciate
think
your
that
help.
He will find the murderer?
The chances are slim to non-existent. It is 7 days now, short of a confession from the murderer himself.
And you will not go further?
You heard the Inspector, Watson. My presence in Whitechapel would hinder, which doesn't mean that we will drop the case.
Just not going to go to Whitechapel.
How is that?
The Inspector spoke of me, but not of us. It is you, Watson, who will lead the investigation tonight. It is you who will bring to the police station the little note that I will write regarding our conclusions. Despite the late hour, there is nothing to stop you from making inquiries about this famous leather apron while you are there.
Why do we keep entrusting things to Watson? You control Dr. Watson! The sense of fear which the murder of the unfortunate Williams has thrown over the neighborhood, and especially her companions, shows no sign of decreasing. Number of streets or nightly terror of Leather Apron. One of our reports visited one of the single women lodging house. Blah 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 blah. The house keeps open until 1 o'clock in the morning. Reopens again at 5. 4-hour off time. Excuse me. The house is nearly 66 women whose get their bed for 4D. Proprietor of the place, East End. He said that women came fainting condition after being knocked about by Leather Apron. He himself would never be out at the neighborhood after 12 at night except without a loaded revolver. The terror, he said, from the public house, the coffee room, police. The hunt continued later down the brick lane. Blah 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 blah. The man is questionably mad. He says that man is and that anybody who met him face to face would know it. Okay. Since Holmes doesn't put any merit in the fact that those stupid newspapers, I'm not going to either. Which is to say that I'm not going to read them.
Instructions, then to begin my investigation into this Leather Apron, I must first head to the police station.
I'm right here. Sir?
Good evening, sir. What do you... I know you.
You know me.
With Sherlock Holmes.
Letter from Holmes.
Indeed. I have come to bring a message from Sherlock
It's the
Holmes
Queen!
for Inspector Aberline. Very well, I will pass it on. But come to think of it, someone was asking about you recently. Finley, the caretaker of some shady boarding house nearby. Does that mean anything to you? Ah, perhaps.
What about Leather Apron?
Actually, I read in the Star that you have arrested a suspect called Leather Apron. You shouldn't believe what you read in that rag, sir. The man is being hunted, but we have yet to get our hands on him, and we aren't close to it either. Why ever not? Bah, he's a specialist in the streetwalker racket. These girls make pitiful witnesses, and we don't inspire confidence. Furthermore, the man seems to be pretty discreet lately. Someone must be helping to hide him.
Maybe it's the captain.
How to get on his trail, then? One of these girls would have to confide in us and give a valid description of the man. Then we'd ask around the journeymen, who use aprons, I imagine.
Well, that makes sense. So, Watson, you're going to the whores again.
Well, goodbye.
Let's make the second or third game in a row.
Boarding house.
Teleport!
I must go to Finley's boarding house.
I'm right here. Hey, Finley.
Good evening, Finley.
Mean Barnes.
Oh, good evening, sir. Aren't you the gentleman who was with the great detective the other time?
You never saw
It
each
is
other.
indeed me, Dr. Watson.
At your service. Police.
Tell me, Finley, I was told that you were looking for us at the police station.
Indeed, I wanted to thank you for last time, you know. That vagrant has never set foot round mine again. I even found a tenant, one who pays his rent, I mean.
Is that blood on that table, sir?
You don't seem very happy, but you were lucky to have found a good tenant so quickly.
It's just that this man is very strange. He paid several days in advance and I gave him a key to the place. Since then, he goes out every night and returns at ungodly hours. I'm sure he goes to visit the ladies, but still, every night.
This guy's a sex machine.
Something must have broken in his case and stank up the stairs in his room for 2 days. I think it was a jar. It must be over there.
Wow. We've got a real machine going on here.
Have you heard talk of Leather Apron?
By the papers, that's all. This man seems very sinister.
Do you know any journeymen who use this type of apron?
The slaughterhouse butchers, I believe, but definitely the cobblers. I
Yeah.
know one, old Isaac Solomonovich. His workshop is on a small street in the Jewish community, across from the hospital. He's a good man. He can help you. But you know, the people there are very close and don't share much with non-Jews.
Oy vey!